$65,000. That's not a lottery ticket. That's not a bonus at work. That's the difference between what the typical home sells for with an agent and without one. And most sellers who skip the agent have no idea they left that kind of money on the table. I'm Ron Siegel, certified liability advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management. Let me give you the numbers because I always want you to see the math for yourself. The National Association of Realtors looked at median sale price, homes sold with an agent, a median of $425,000. Homes sold by owner, what the industry calls FSBO, F-S-B-O, or for sale by owner, $360,000. That gap is $65,000. And remember, those are national medians here in California and certainly here in Orange County. Home prices can run double those numbers or more. So do not think of this as a $65,000 conversation. At our price points, that gap can easily be $135,000. The more expensive the home, the more expensive the mistake. Now, I know exactly what some of you are thinking. Ron, of course you'd say that. You work with realtors every day. That's fair. So let me be the skeptic for you. Here's the objection I hear all the time. If I sell it myself, I save the commission. And on the surface, that math looks tempting. On a $425,000 home, the commission might run somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $25,000. So the FSBO seller thinks, I just made $25,000 by doing it myself. But hold on. So what does this really mean for you? You didn't save $25,000. You spent $65,000 to save $25,000. Nobody would take that trade if it were written on paper in front of them. But because the $65,000 is invisible, because it is money you never see, sellers make that trade every single day and feel smart doing it. That is the trap. You can count the commission. You cannot count the offers you never got. Now, I want to be fair about the data because being fair with numbers is kind of my whole job. Studies do show that people are more likely to sell on their own in markets with lower price points. So part of that gap is the neighborhood, not just the agent. But even when you account for that, the pattern holds. Sellers with professional representation consistently walk away with more. Why? Let me tell you about a couple I'll call Mark and Susan, not their real names, but a real situation I see all the time. They decided to sell on their own, put a sign in the yard, posted some phone photos online, priced the house based on what the neighbor's house sold for 2 years ago. 2 years ago? In this market, that's like pricing gasoline based on what it cost when your kid was in middle school. They got one offer in 6 weeks, and here's the part nobody tells you. The buyer who shows up to a FSBO knows you're not paying an agent, so what do? They ask for the discount you thought you were keeping. The savings you planned on became the buyer's negotiating chip. Compare that with what a good listing strategy does. Professional pricing based on today's data, not memory. Real marketing exposure, so the home is in front of every serious buyer in the market, not just the ones who happen to drive down your street. And skilled negotiation so that when 3 offers come in, someone who does this every day is playing those offers against each other on your behalf. Exposure creates competition. Competition creates price. That is not magic. That is an auction with better attendance. Remember, rsrsalesmax.com. rsrsalesmax.com. We show you how to maximize the sales price, minimize the time on market. Think about it this way. If you had a rare baseball card, would you sell it to the one guy who knocks on your door, or would you put it in front of every collector in the country? Same card, very different check. And here's why I put my certified liability advisor hat on. Because most families, the home is the single largest asset they own. When you sell it, that equity becomes real money. $65,000 of additional proceeds is not a rounding error. That is money that can pay down expensive debt, strengthen your liquidity, and lower your household blended interest rate. That is strategic debt management, and it starts with not giving your equity away at the closing table. Because as I always say, strategy beats rate, always. And strategy starts before the for sale sign ever goes in the ground. So what should you do if you're thinking about selling? Get informed about the real estate, real exposure, and real pricing strategy look like before you decide to go it alone. You can get the pricing for your property, rsrlinks.com/myhome, rsrlinks.com/myhome. We're going to show you the comps, and we can even give you a competitive market analysis if you want one. No cost to you. Go to rsrlinks.com/salesmax. That's rsrlinks.com/salesmax. It walks you through how proper pricing and maximum exposure put more money in your pocket when you sell. It costs you nothing to look. At California prices, it might cost you six figures not to. I am Ron Siegel, your certified liability advisor, helping families build wealth through strategic debt management. Thanks for listening to the Real-Time Real Estate segment, brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com.